6.3 again, which is our last review lesson for this week. And again, it is review because the foundation videos can be found on the 6.3 videos. If you watch them and learn the general process, you should be fine. Again, my speed will be increased on the old parts, and what I mean by that is the stuff that we already learned. The good news though is that I am actually going to start in review mode to kind of bring it back to your memory. So what we learned in those videos was that we want to typically eliminate x, and again, you can eliminate whatever you want, and if it's easier to eliminate something, for example, if you have x plus y equals 19 and 2x minus y equals 6, guess what? Your y's are ready to go. I would probably add them up and eliminate y if you remember what that's about. If you had x plus y equals 19 and 2x plus y equals 10, your y's are almost ready to go if you switch the bottom row, if you remember that step where you make that negative, make that negative, make that negative. So again, you can eliminate any variable you want, but I typically would not mess with my y's unless they were perfectly set up to be eliminated. But in all the stuff that I want you to show me, because I want to make sure you have the process, I want you to eliminate x. So these are homework questions, so you might want to make sure you copy them to make sure you can do it, because it is also going to make you show the work on that. Our first step was to make our x's match, and so what I taught you to do was say, what does this have that that doesn't? And you need to take this top part and multiply it by 5. You can leave the bottom one alone because again, that 5x is already a 5x. We then have to distribute, so we end up with 5x and 25y, and leave the bottom alone, 5x minus 7y. These two need to be opposite in order to do that. So again, what the computer is going to have you do, and what I want you to do, is switch the bottom row, so negative 5x plus 7y. And then in the end, you added your terms, that canceled out, and this left you with 32y. That is all I needed you to do, and really that's elimination. It's just not elimination completely, but again, that process, if you can do that problem, then you're ready for elimination once you kind of get over your, get over yourself and kind of walk through the fear instead of, kind of just saying I can't do it. But as long as you can understand that, make your x's match by multiplying, distribute appropriately, switch the bottom row, add your terms, that's elimination. Again, if you need more than that because you did not watch those videos earlier, I suggest going back to 6.3 and getting through those and taking good notes on that. Whenever we had two numbers, the advice I gave you was simply, because don't have to be the lowest, is simply to take the bottom number up and take the top number down. We actually did that here because we brought the 5 up, but there's nothing attached to x, so we brought nothing down. So anyway, just make sure you again multiply appropriately, so 63x, 32y, this becomes 63x and 63y. Again, the next step, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to do it that way. On paper, you are actually going to have to, or on the computer, you actually have to type this step in there. So in your notes, you should have this in there, because again, that's the original. This is my first step, which is to multiply the top by 9, the bottom by 7. The next step was to distribute. The next step was to switch the bottom row, so 63x, 32y, negative 63x, minus 63y, add your terms. That is, I believe, 31, and that would be your last box. So again, that's your start. This is your first two boxes, second two boxes, third two boxes, and your last box for your answer. Alright. The last thing we did was we took that and actually put a third term in there. And so same thing goes. Again, these are on your homework. This is a main part of your quiz and even your test, is being able to do this. So again, we want our x's to match, so we take that top equation and we put that whole thing in parentheses and multiply by 3. Because this already has a 3, we leave the bottom alone. We then will distribute, getting 3x minus 12y equals 24. Leave the bottom alone, 3x plus 5y equals 7. Again, our next step is to switch the bottom row, so 3x minus 12y equals 24. Negative 3x minus 5y, negative 7. And the last thing we do is put our terms together, getting no x's, that is negative 17y and 17. And again, that is the stopping point on that question, because I did not need you to solve it. Because in my opinion, once you can get here safely, I don't question your ability to solve. You just divide by 17 and that's it. And I am a teacher that thinks I would rather have you learn the main part of it than, worry about whether or not the stuff that you can actually do on your own. And we will be doing this, but these are just homework questions you're going to see, as I will always give you an opportunity to copy so you can use your notes to help you on your homework. And again, same situation, just like it was last time. We're just going to simply take the 2 and bring it up. We're going to take our 9 and bring it down. We're then going to distribute appropriately. Sorry, I need a y. Same thing here, 18x minus 54y equals 18. We are then going to switch our bottom row. And put our terms together. That goes away. This makes, I believe, 40y and negative 2. And again, that is where we will stop, because these questions aren't made to be solved. They're just made to be worked through. Now again, the beauty of this homework, which is what you hate, but actually helps you learn it better for those of you who are doing it right, is that if you get a question wrong, you can send me a screenshot of this and I can look at your work and say, oh, you forgot to multiply here, or hey, you should have put a number here. And that's where you actually get your learning. You don't get your learning from taking notes. Taking notes is just giving you the game plan. Kind of like if this was a basketball game, I would not spend 3 hours in the locker room with my team talking about what we're going to do. That is about a 10 to 15, maybe 20-minute time span that I go, and then we spend the rest of the time pretty much playing that game for an hour. This is game planning. So again, what I am giving you is the strategy, and then it's up to you to kind of take that strategy and just make your best decisions. Remember that this represented, again, the hardest portion. The rest is simply algebra. The difference today is that we are going to have to find both solutions, but again, if you could do that part, the reason why I stopped there in the first semester is because once you know how to get here, elimination's easy. And so we kind of work through it. And again, these are on your homework. You just won't have to show the work. So I do though suggest that you actually follow the steps so you perfect what you're doing. But because this is not showing work, I'm going to do it the way I normally would, which is I work it off of the paper. This has nothing, so I don't need to multiply the top, but that needs a 2. And so I write 2x plus 3y equals 9, and then 2x, 10y, and 16. Again, 2 times x, 2 times 5, 2 times 8. I then switch my bottom row, which again, on computer we do it one way. The way I do it on paper is I just typically go through here, I scribble out my plus and put a minus above it, and then I put my minus to make sure it's not lined up with my equal sign right there, and there you go. It doesn't take up a lot of space, but once you've practiced this process, it's kind of easier to do because you know what to expect. This goes away. This gives me negative 7y. This gives me, I think, negative 7. I then divide by negative 7, getting y equals 1. And again, what I usually do is copy the top equation. And the reason I always copy the top equation is the same reason why I only switch to bottom. It's so I don't overthink it. Whenever you're in the middle of a process, there's no time to say, do I do the top or the bottom? Do I switch to top? Do I switch to bottom? Just make a decision and go. And so what we're going to do now, as I said before, this originally had 2 variables, but y is no longer a variable. So what we do is we plug in our y, and we go from there. We solve as we originally were taught to solve. The trick here is to make sure that x goes first if you were being asked to put it in ordered pair form, because even though we found y first, that is a y, which means it should go in the second slot, but that's it. So based off of everything we did last semester, again, for those of you who worked with that, thank you. There's nothing that makes a class run better than students who do their jobs. But again, that's it. Like everything that you learned, this is the only new information that you really are seeing right now, is taking your answer, plugging it back in, and solving. So that's why I said that you saw 90% of what you needed to see before the semester even started. And that's important because your test for this chapter is next week, and we were not going to take 5 days to learn one of these things. You have to know it now. So again, if you did not do it, sorry, but you have a job to do. You have to get caught up. Otherwise, this test is going to kind of pull you down to start. Anyway, solve the system here. Again, same thing. That needs a 3. this needs a 5 because I'm eliminating x. Distributing safely, 15x, 9y, and I believe that's 72, 15x, 20y, and 15. Again, whenever I switch, I usually just switch, scribble and switch, and the reason I scribble it out is so I mentally know that's not a plus, because if you see this and that, you could accidentally pick that and not notice that's there. And again, do not put your equals. What I have students do is they put their equals right there, but if you're glancing, you will not see that negative. That's why I usually put it up high and kind of, slant it a little bit, making sure not to turn it into a 7, of course, but so I know that's negative. But whatever your system is, you'll develop it. That's just something that I did to kind of get better at what I was doing. Negative 29y equals, I believe that's 89? That makes no 87. I was about to say that makes no sense. But 9 times 3 ends in 27. 2 times 3 is 6, with the 2 from the 27 makes that 8, so I'm pretty sure this is 3. And again, you can check that here just to make sure. I don't even need the negative. I know it's going to be positive. And again, you'll notice that I do a lot of common sense thinking. What I don't type is negative 87 divided by negative 29 because I don't need the calculator to tell me whether it's negative or positive. I need the calculator to tell me what the number is. I can figure out the sign from looking at that. And so the more you rely on your calculator, the harder math is going to be for you, which is why I have eventually, and you'll do the same if you stay in math long enough, you'll eventually learn not to just use the calculator for every single thing, except for the parts you kind of have a question on. But other than that, 5x minus 3y is negative 24. Remember, to get your second answer, you copy the first equation. This is the only new part of our learning, which is once you find it, copy the first equation. Either one works, and then simply plug in your value, because again, this is not a variable anymore. So 5x minus 9 equals negative 24. Add 9. I believe that makes 5x equals negative 15, and therefore x is negative 3. Again, you can check that answer by taking both of these numbers and plugging it into the equation that we did not use, because this supposedly came from the top equation. If they work in the bottom equation, then we know it's true. So 3 parentheses negative 3 plus 4 parentheses 3 equals, notice I got the answer of 3. Notice it says it should be 3. There's no way you ever should take a elimination test, a substitution test, and miss a problem or you shouldn't miss it without knowing, because you know if you got it right, if these two things make the answers go. If you were to take a 10-question substitution elimination test, you should be able to hand in your test and say, I know I got 7 of them right, and I know I missed 3 of them, because 7 of them worked when I plugged in the numbers, and 3 of them did not work when I plugged in the numbers. And I mean, that's pretty much what math is. It's using your head, using your own common sense. But again, as long as there's a way for you to check your answer, kind of like that, then there's no way you can ever miss it and not know you missed it. The majority of focus on homework and tests will still be on the part where you're showing steps. Again, this thing here shows up on that Photomath, which is why some of you might have found out that the final was a little tougher than you thought it was, because I simply went through Photomath and made sure not to pick a whole bunch of questions that gave the right answer, because I understand it exists. I'm not as, silly as some people think I am, but, anyway. So I did not make the majority of your homework this, because to me, if you can do the making the numbers match and getting down to here, that's fine. So I think there's 2 of these maybe on your homework. But, the main thing you need to learn how to do is the part where you actually work the stuff out. But anyway, be sure you're, again, working to understand the process. This is not a race to finish. This is not a race to just get everything done. Just make sure that you are focusing on the process. Again, kind of like I just said, if you're one of those students who can solve the system, like you can tell me it's 3 negative 3 or negative 3 3, whatever that is, but you can't do the first questions, you're pretty much telling me exactly what I need to know in terms of where your answers are coming from. But again, just be sure to get assistance when you need it. Make sure you attempt the problem first. Don't just say, I don't get it, because again, that is that's more of a, can you redo everything you just did on video because I didn't take any notes and I did not pay attention type of thing. But anyway, other than that, have a good day, and talk to you later. Good luck.